But yeah, I mean, listen, the British Empire was the greatest empire of its day for 2 centuries through freedom of the seas. Now we're the greatest empire of our day through freedom of the seas. And this is one of the quarrels I have with some of my compatriots on the right who are more isolationist about foreign policy. And that is, if all people everywhere are kind of the same, as you mentioned, it turns out that if we just abandon the world scene, then somebody else is going to fill it.
The Democrats are finally, what did they? They did something. They had a big thing with Willie Nelson, or is that tomorrow? Maybe that's
Maybe. I
tomorrow.
mean, they're
But
dragging all of them out. They dragged out Eminem, Willie Nelson, really going for it.
no, but this is like a last minute.
This intense clip, Ben Shapiro takes on Bill Maher on his own show, and it's not looking good for Maher. They're diving into big topics from the legacy of the British Empire to the impact of marijuana legalization, and of course, a hard-hitting look at how politics shapes public opinion. This is going to be an intense one. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Like pot initiative. I think it's just full legalization, and I mean, here's an interesting question.
An evolution, Kamala Harris from like locking up everybody for pot
Right.
to
I mentioned that in our meeting
smoking
today.
up to
I said
now,
that
like,
that's when she kind of lost me. I mean, I remember I donated to her. This is back when I used to give money to some politicians. I've learned my lesson, but I think she was very against pot, and I thought, oh wow. I mean, like unnecessarily, especially for the Democrat. It looked to me like, oh, you're picking on poor little pot because they can't fight back, and it makes you look tough. And that pissed me off because, pot is one of my, one of the independent voters call it issues that matter to me. It's all about issues that matter to me.
I gotta say, I do think that for young people, the strains of pot have gotten a lot more intense than when I was a kid.
Thank you, Jesus. Not that
Again, I mean,
believe
but for young people, I don't think it's a wonderful thing. Like 20-year-olds who are regularly toking, I don't think that's a great thing for their lives.
20, you're okay. 20, you're grown up, and that's when you really want to be smoking. Listen to Uncle Bill, kids.
That's crazy. Maher tries to brush off his own pot use as something only the grown-ups should consider. But Shapiro is all over it. This double standard reeks of elitism. And Shapiro makes it clear that Maher wants the younger generation to steer clear of pot, but he's perfectly fine indulging in it himself. A prime example of rules for thee, but not for me.
But
it's one of those areas of disagreement that we're going to have.
I'm very glad that I did not start until I was 19. It was after the first year of college, the summer after that's good. I feel like good for my body and good for my mind. You have to learn what reality is before you start fucking with it, But, as far as libertarian principles go, to me, the most private place that you should not try to interfere with is inside my mind. Don't tell me what I can do inside my mind. That's worse than coming into my house even. That's my mind. And if I want to open the doors of perception, you know the group The Doors?
Yeah, of course.
You know that's where that name comes from?
I did not know that.
Aldous Huxley, I believe it was, wrote a book called The Doors of Perception about drugs. And that's where they took that name from.
Okay.
Look,
you taught me something. I did not know that.
I can't believe there's one thing in this world you didn't know.
To be fair, this is an area of expertise.
I know, but I feel very good that I knew one thing you didn't know.
When it comes to this sort of stuff, I also am a big fan of localism on this. So again, I don't want a pot shop in my neighborhood where my kids are. And if you want to live in libertarian land in LA with all the adults with no kids around, like that's your prerogative.
I must tell you, as someone who probably has not been to a pot shop, or as we call them, dispensaries.
Thank you. Again, not my area of expertise.
I know. that's why I'm filling you in.
I appreciate it.
But I promise you,
learning things.
It's not like, I know you don't want it in your neighborhood, but I think you're picturing a crack den and a pot shop. It's just people like me who can afford it, going in and having a very elegant experience with bud tenders and people selling a product, giving you advice, sleep, or my friend has joint pain, or my friend has Parkinson's, and what would help. And other people, it does get it. I'm sure there are drooling idiots with Cheeto dust on their shirt who sit home all day and smoke pot all day. And by the way, their heroes are people like, and I love them, but Willie Nelson, Snoop Dogg, people who, Woody, people have this reputation for smoking pot all day long because they do. That's so far from me. So I'm just saying that's the spectrum when we're talking about pot. Don't judge me by the worst people who do it.
No, I'm not trying to take away your
No,
powers. I made very
but
clear
do
to you.
you agree with that principle?
I mean, I think that obviously that's true. I mean, that doesn't necessarily, dispense with the public policy considerations, right? I mean, you have to look at then you have to look at the data. What are the percentage?
Here, Shapiro slams down the data. He's not letting Maher get away with the vague platitudes and personal freedom. He's asking for facts, and when Maher can't provide them, it's a clear win for Shapiro. Maher's arguments crumble under the weight of any real numbers and analysis, and this kind of discussion is honestly where Shapiro shines, exposing the flimsy basis of Maher's discussion.
To people? What are the ages where it's most likely to be
So,
addictive?
okay, rubber meets the road. Should it be legal or not? Pot.
I mean, I where I live, no. Where you live, sure. I'm a big fan of localism. I'm a big fan of localism.
What a dodge, localism. What do you think of our fair business? You say you grew up out here. Were you touched by show business?
Sure.
Because
My dad came out.
Really?
My parents came out here in '79. My dad wanted to write for film and TV. He's a musician.
oh,
So you know Michelli's?
you know what?
The restaurant Michelli's over here on
Ventura?
Ventura.
Of course.
My dad played piano there for 20 years, Monday and Tuesday nights.
What years? I bet you I heard him.
Oh, I'm sure you did. It would have been like early '90s through mid 2000s.
Yeah, I was still inappropriately going out to bars and clubs. In
Yeah, that's
that
where they had all
era.
the waiters singing and stuff. So I grew up in that restaurant. Like I grew up.
Holy fuck.
I grew up sitting there and
See, this
watching
is
them
what
bring
we
out
need.
the food and.
This is what we need to do. Get under the yarmulke.
Yeah, exactly.
Find out.
Beneath the yarmulke. Yeah, exactly. The worst name for a podcast ever, Beneath the Yarmulke. But
Actually, it's not. But
the answer is it's a bald spot. But
and
in any case,
isn't today? No, you have to leave because it's a Jewish something today.
yet another Jewish holiday. Yeah, this
We
is
know better, but we know the audience doesn't know better, so we can put this over on them. And so much of it is just some sort of cultivating these stories, and they are rampant, of somebody on the left, and it's a big country. There's going to be a lot of people who do goofy things. And then make it, like making it all about that. I feel like that's what Tucker Carlson does, ignoring the bigger story. And I feel like you less than me.
I try not to.
Yeah.
And I won't say I'm immune to it, but
No.
I think
But-
what we call it nut picking, right? Like find a nut and then
Nut-picking.
right.
Perfect. I didn't. Yes.
Right. Like it's very easy to try and mistake an anecdote for a trend.
You know what? I said in my writers' meeting today, they were starting in on Arnold Palmer's cock.
Who gives a shit?
And I said, guys, this is Trump derangement syndrome. I said, yes. Is it going to be in the monologue? Yes, of course. I'm a comedian, and this is ridiculous, and he's a preposterous figure, and he shouldn't be president. But like, you're actually agitated about it. And I watched the video of it, and the people who get him and the people who hate him, they're just in different universes. I feel like I'm a person who hates him, but I also get him because I saw the video and the people behind him are laughing. As a comedian, I see something working on a comedic level. And he's a guy who says, I'm not really a politician. He sure is an interesting one. Who's going to be part comedian and part this?
He's half stand up for sure.
He's half stand-up. When it bleeds over into the enemies of the people and Hitler, again, we don't have to go back there. I think you're wrong, and you're going to be proved wrong that you whistled past that graveyard. But the part about Arnold Palmer's cock, if you're agitated about that on the left, you're just looking to be agitated. He's been doing this for a long time, and it has nothing to do with anything that's going to affect your life. How big Arnold Palmer's cock is first of all the things that I never in the world thought I'd be talking about.
Many English sentences have been constructed in the Trump era that never would have
I
been
mean,
thought.
And
It
it's
is an amazing thing.
And if Kamala Harris said it, the race would be over tomorrow. That's what's so unfair about this. But it's an unfair sport.
What I've said before to people is like, you think everything is so
my
terrible now. If you had a time machine and you went back like 100 years, the first thing that you'd notice when you got out of the time machine was how everything smelled.
because
It would
people
smell
didn't
like
shower.
shit. It would smell awful.
I
And you'd
think
notice it
I
right
think I
away.
saw that on your show. People didn't shower 100 years ago.
They didn't have indoor plumbing in most
Right.
places. And by the way,
But like
and
a
this, and
shower was not like as we see a shower.
yeah, a couple hundred years ago, it definitely was not. And it was like some dude with a bucket pouring it in
Right.
into a canteen or whatever it was with holes in
Right.
it. And
I mean,
and
that's if you had a bucket guy.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is that I've said on the show
I had a
is
bucket intern.
the thing that I've said on the show is we have a time machine. It's called an airplane.
Right.
This is funny. Shapiro takes this moment to hammer home the absurdity of Maher's nostalgia for a simpler time. Maher might think he's making a profound point about modern life. The good old days Maher romanticizes were filled with real hardships, and the world today, thanks to advancements in travel and technology, is far better. Shapiro doesn't let Maher get away with the rose-colored view of the past, exposing how he ignores the reality of progress.
And it goes all over
Yeah.
to different times. You can go to places in the world and they
Yes.
are living a living
So-
standard
Right.
that is 1520.
Right.
You can go there right now and you can visit and you can see if that time is better than the time that you live in. That eventually, if they allowed proper representation in Parliament, eventually America would run Britain. That was one of their major concerns, is that in Parliament, as the population of the United States grew, that Britain would eventually, it would be a reverse colony of America as opposed to the other way around. And America was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's true. So what's the problem? And so you see, obviously, decolonization from Britain among former British citizens in Australia, you see it in the United States, you see it in Canada, you see it in a wide variety of places around the globe. But yeah, I mean, listen, the British Empire was the greatest empire of its day for 2 centuries through freedom of the seas. Now we're the greatest empire of our day through freedom of the seas. And this is one of the quarrels I have with some of my compatriots on the right who are more isolationist about foreign policy. And that is, if all people everywhere are kind of the same, as you mentioned, it turns out that if we just abandon the world scene, then somebody else is going to fill it.
I'd love to hear your guys' opinion and thoughts down in the comments below. Always love to hear other people's opinion. If you could, please give us a like and subscribe. Really helps out the channel. And we'll see you guys in the next one.